Thank you so much for joining us again here at Kingston Christian Fellowship. Today, I want to do the work of an evangelist. The Apostle Paul told the pastor Timothy, his son in the faith, to do the work of an evangelist. And that doesn't necessarily mean evangelizing, but it does mean equipping the saints for the work of the ministry as well. And so I want to encourage you today with strategies and ways in which you can share your faith and see fruit. And so if you have a Bible with you, turn to John 4. I want to talk about the story of the woman at the well, and I won't read it to you because it's a long passage, but you can look it up and you can refer to it, and I will pull some of the phrases from it, and definitely the ideas that Jesus was conveying from it. And so, I love the way that Jesus does ministry because it's so organic and it's so natural, right? I can't, I mean, you could count how many times in the Bible it says, as they went, something happened, right? As they were on their way, as they were on the road to X place, something happened. A funeral popped up. They met someone on the road, and it's like such an incredible expression of how God has called us to live our lives. Yes, we make programs for certain things, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but nothing should ever replace your day to day life and journey with Jesus and the expression that, you don't just participate in Christianity on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. for an hour and a half or 2 hours. It's a daily thing and a daily thing that we live in. And so organic the way that Jesus does ministry, and it's so awesome. So he approaches this woman at the well, and his you have to notice the very first thing he does is he starts talking about living water. The approach of Jesus is to understand where this woman is and to start talking about living water, to start presenting who he is and what he's there for. To present that, hey, I'm here to bring life. I'm for you, not against you. God is introducing himself to this woman and displaying who he is and what he's about so that she can ultimately trust him and believe in what he says. So let me read you just a quick verse. This is in verse 10, John 4, verse 10. Jesus says this. This is awesome. If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink. If you knew, see, this woman, as you read on further in the passage, this woman has religious background. She conversates with Jesus about specific religious topics. And so she does have a background and a working knowledge of faith-based things. But Jesus says, if you knew the gift of God and who it is. Wrong mindsets will always hinder us in our relationship with God and will hinder us in what it is that he's trying to do or wanting to do in our life. And this woman at the well had wrong mindsets. And the first thing that Jesus had to do was break those wrong mindsets and say, if you really knew me. See, God is looking for a clear representation of himself in the earth today, for people to see him in all of his awe and splendor, his beauty and his glory. He is revealing himself in ways that's breaking wrong mindsets, that he's stingy, that he's against us, that he's not for us, that he's mean, that he's angry. He is graceful and full of love. Um, I mean, he's presenting to the woman, there's life. And he talks long enough that the woman gets excited, right? So his first strategy, his primary strategy is to show people who he really is in all of his love and all of his goodness. And this woman, once she gets it, right, she's excited at the bottom of that. The woman said to him, Sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water. So Jesus knows, okay, my conversation is making progress. She now hungers and thirsts for the things that Jesus can offer her. right? She knows that he is for her, that he has come for her betterment, to improve her life, to ease her pain, to bring her peace, etc., etc. And that's where the opportunity to address her deep pain is. But there's a difference between knowing somebody cares for you and knowing somebody doesn't. And when you know that somebody cares for you, you are willing to address your pain. You're willing to present that before him. And so Jesus goes on, you know what he says, go call your husband. And she's like, well, I don't have a husband. And Jesus says, well, you're right. You've had 5 husbands, and the man you're now with is not your husband. And so Jesus is able to bring up, listen, the deepest point of pain in this woman's life, because he first laid the groundwork saying, I care and I want your betterment. I care and I've come to bring, excuse me, I've come to bring life and living water to you. And so, in this safe environment of love, right, Jesus is able to address someone's deepest pain. And again, this is a strategy that we need to adopt. We need to represent Jesus well in the earth, represent God well, who he really is, that he's for mankind, not against them. He's so for them. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, right? For God so loved. And that is the reflection that we need to bring. And when people know that we're on their side and that we want their betterment and that we want to see them healthy and whole and come to know Jesus in a way that they're drinking of the living water that Jesus is talking about, then people will open up. They'll share their deepest pain. And it's such a beautiful approach. It's an approach that is fruitful and one that works. You know, they say people don't care what you know until they know how much you care. And that's the truth. You know, the love of God just oozing out of us, that the world sees how that there is a God that loves them unconditionally in absolutely incredible ways. Look, is it your heart to see people free? Is it your heart today to see people whole and healed? Then you're a candidate for this strategy. Doing ministry the way Jesus did, right? It's not even a strategy, it's the strategy, right? Jesus lived his life in a way where he only did what he saw the Father doing and said what he heard the Father saying. And that is the only way to do ministry, in partnership with the Holy Spirit, in partnership with the Lord, and doing ministry that way. Look, um, this is very much an approach that takes us way back to the beginning, way back to the garden. When you look at the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now, Adam and Eve, they ate from the wrong tree. They ate from the knowledge of good and evil. And sometimes in our evangelistic approach, we try to feed people from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil without feeding them from the tree of life, right? Jesus's approach was to first bring life and to say there is a place of living that is full of life, in which you solely feast from the tree of life, and it's refreshing and rejuvenating. It makes you whole. It's the fullness of God's purposes for you, solely eating from the tree of life. But so many evangelistic approaches in the earth today simply present people with the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And we are making the same mistake that Adam and Eve did in the garden. Look, this is what 2 Corinthians 3 says. Paul says here, says, he has made us competent as ministers of a new covenant. Look, you are competent as a minister of the new covenant. You are not competent as a minister of the old covenant. And when we try to minister the old covenant, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, where it's all about the rules of and regulations, the knowledge of what's good and what's not, and we try to live from that, it doesn't work. And we cannot make the same mistake again that Adam and Eve made. So you are competent as ministers of a new covenant, not of the letter, okay, but of the Spirit. For the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life. The Apostle Paul goes on to talk about the old covenant this way. He says, now if the ministry that brought death, which was engraved in letters on stone, And then he goes on to say, if the ministry that condemns men. Look, the old covenant is the ministry of death and condemnation, but there's a new covenant in which we can feast from life and present life. And like Jesus did, our initial approach is life and life more abundantly. The river of life, living water is our approach. It's the approach that Jesus used, and it's the approach that we can use. He first approached the woman offering life, and then he was able to uh, pinpoint the pain in her life from the safety of unconditional love and see the woman set free. It's so good. God is so good. And his approach is fruitful. Look, approaching people with the intent to condemn will not produce the fruit of life. Approaching people with the intent to see them healed and whole will produce life. And that's what was in Jesus's heart when he went to the cross, seeing mankind whole and healed, providing sozo, the Greek word for salvation, which encompasses healing, salvation. It's the whole package that he has um, given to us. So look, we all know, for the most part, we all know John 3:16, the most popular verse in the Bible. And I can just imagine, Jesus being the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, knowing the end from the beginning, would know that John 3:16 would be the most popular Bible verse uh, on the earth, in the earth, in this day. And so, I asked this question: how would Jesus follow up John 3:16? What verse would you put after this incredible key focal point of a verse? And for those of you that know it, you can say it with me, but this is what it says. It says, "For God did not send his son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him." There is a style, an evangelistic style that works. It's an evangelistic strategy that Jesus used, and it's not to condemn, and it's not to guilt, and it's not to shame. It's to extend life and healing. It's to extend salvation, which is wholeness, and salvation isn't condemnation, guilt, or shame. This woman was experiencing pain in a particular area of her life, and Jesus' approach wasn't condemnation, it was health and wholeness. Remember, every instruction in the Bible that we aren't currently experiencing is an invitation to live in that manner, not a condemnation that you aren't. Okay, I'm going to say that again, maybe reword it. All right. Every instruction in the Bible that you aren't currently living in isn't there for condemnation, it is there as an invitation for you to live in more of the fullness of God and what He has called us to live in, the portion that He has provided for us. Look, let's close with this. I want to talk about speaking the truth in love, because this is a very interesting verse and a very important verse. That just seems to be a hot verse right now. Look, speaking the truth in love. And John 8:32 says, "Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." It doesn't say, and the truth will condemn you. It says, and the truth will set you free. But we've often looked at this verse where speaking the truth in love is something harsh and it's awkward. And we think, well, we better do it in love because the truth is going to hurt them. When the truth is about the truth, that is to set people free. I want to know the truth because I want to be free. Speaking the truth in love. And speaking the truth in love does not mean speaking the truth simply with a smile on your face. It means that your heart needs to ooze the unconditional love of God as you speak to people, and they know that you are speaking in such a way and providing ministry in such a way that you want to see them whole, that you want to see the fullness and the best of God's purposes for them fulfilled in their life. Jesus showed his love by his earnestness for her to experience life and to be whole. And I'll tell you, people are willing to face their deepest pain, if they see and feel and hear how much you love them, that you are for them and not against them. I'll tell you today that if you want to see the most radical healings, the most radical life transformations, you need to love, and we need to love like Jesus loved. If you want to have successful, fruitful ministry, we need to love the way Jesus just showed us in the story. We need to love people and be for them, not against them. We need to encourage them and not condemn them, and see them come into healing. The truth about the woman's difficult circumstances were spoken by Jesus in love. They brought freedom and healing, not guilt and shame and condemnation. There is a way to address somebody's deepest pain and see them healed. I'm not saying avoid those places of pain or those places of lack or those places of failure. You don't have to avoid them, but you do need to speak to them in love, in the atmosphere of love, where people know that you are linking arms with them, that you're on their team, that you're standing behind them to see the fullness of the purposes of God in their life. Look, what is the end result? The end result is this woman, when you read the story, this woman runs back through the town shouting, "Come meet a man who told me everything I've ever done." So in that setting, the town would already have known this woman's life. It was already evident the things that she had done, but she was able to shout and scream it without shame, without guilt, without condemnation, because of the healing that she received from Jesus. This is the fruit. All of a sudden, this woman is set free. She experiences freedom. The unconditional love of God is poured over her life and healed her heart in the most deepest of areas, in the deepest pain that she experienced. The love of God had exploded in her life, and now she is telling everybody about him. She is shouting about him, from, in essence, from the rooftops, and just sharing his incredible love. Look, there is a way. There is a way. Jesus shows us, and there are so many other stories like this. The woman caught in adultery, exact same story, exact same strategy. It's all through Jesus's ministry. So you know what? Let's do it the way Jesus did it. It's probably the best example that we could have. Let's do it that way. Let's love the world into salvation. Let's love the world into knowing Jesus. Let's be people that decide in our hearts to represent him properly in the earth today, and we will reap the harvest that God has for us. Again, thank you so much for tuning in and for joining us today. God bless you, and we will see you soon.